Hey YouTubers, this is the Gold Standard User 924 coming at you with another video for you guys today. Now, it's not very often that I come up on here and discuss about what's been going on in the world of professional wrestling as far as current events go, but this is going to be one of those rare occasions where I'll just come up on here and make some brief discussion topics on something that's been going on, especially if we're talking WWE. And just recently, I was watching parts of Monday Night Raw this past week about Ric Flair's birthday celebration. This event was held in Atlanta, Georgia, which was the former site of WCW's headquarters. And Ric Flair, being one of the cornerstones of WCW since Ted Turner had purchased Jim Crockett's promotions and rechristening it as World Championship Wrestling. So it kind of made sense to have this event being held at the spot where WCW used to serve its headquarters, Ric Flair being like a cornerstone or one of the many key important wrestlers coming from that company. I thought going into it that this was just going to be like one of those run-of-the-mill specials where they'll just bring back a legend just for nostalgia pops and nothing else, just fan service and all that stuff. But towards the end of Monday Night Raw was something that I did not actually expect for them to actually pull this off. While Triple H and Stephanie and the rest of the WWE locker room were out in the ring just celebrating Ric Flair's life and birthday. So there was a scene cutting to the back where Batista made his unannounced appearance, and he brings in this camera person and he's beating up Ric Flair in the locker room, just making his presence known. So judging from that end segment of Monday Night Raw, it looks like we're going to potentially see a Triple H versus Batista program. That would actually create some pretty interesting weeks of television. It's just amazing just to see Batista come back. I know like almost 5 years ago when he made his last run the company, so I mean, they had him come back as this baby face, and the crowd just completely rejected him because Daniel Bryan, who was like the hottest superstar in the company at that time, people had been clamoring for him to win the Royal Rumble, but it turned out that Bryan never even competed in the Royal Rumble match at all. So Batista ended up being the scapegoat, and the crowd just completely shit on him. And, you know, he would go on to win the Royal Rumble that year. That would sort of foreshadow what would be Batista's heel turn. They had him, Randy Orton, Triple H reunite as Evolution, and they feuded with The Shield for a bit. And then after losing to a series of matches from The Shield, that Batista announced that he quit the company. And other than that appearance that he had on SmackDown 1000 just this past November, I believe, or October, other than that, we haven't really seen a lot of Batista on WWE programming ever since. So seeing Batista on TV once again was still a shocker and still surprising to see him back on TV. Only this time, rather than just being a one-off appearance, it looks like we're going to get a program between him and Triple H, possibly at WrestleMania 35. This has been something that had been teasing for a couple years, or a match that, even looking from some of the dirt sheets and internet news articles throughout the years, that when Batista was given an interview about if Batista were to have his last match, he was asked which opponent would he face in his hypothetical retirement match. And he went on for the record saying that Triple H would be his last opponent that he would face in his wrestling career. It looks like it seems like we're going to get that here this year. I know they wanted to tease this maybe last year about a possibility of, Batista being involved in that mixed tag match with Ronda Rousey against Triple H and Stephanie, but that didn't go through. And then they had Kurt Angle play that part and teaming with Ronda Rousey. So after a couple years of all that teasing, it seems like we're finally going to get that match here. I know they had a series of matches back in 2005, and they had that match at WrestleMania 21 where Batista would beat Triple H and become the World Heavyweight Champion for the first time, cementing him as a main staple as a main eventer throughout the next 5 years. And I believe the last time they had a match was that Hell in a Cell match at Vengeance. And like WrestleMania 21, Batista went over. So pretty much Batista has been 3-0 against Triple H. After all that, it's like they never rekindled that program ever since. And Batista would go on to have his success for a few years. Triple H would also continue his career for a few years before shifting over to a staff role in the WWE, where he just kind of, serves as the chief operating officer, the COO, so to speak. So he hasn't really been wrestling as a regular performer in almost 10 years, hard to believe. And it's just bizarre just to think how time flies. It's just really crazy just to think about it, because I remember like yesterday when Batista was like this mega fan favorite, and the way that they were building Batista up in the months leading to WrestleMania 21, it was just so surreal. And then, they had Batista win the Royal Rumble. He was still part of Evolution, although there was some signs of him transitioning from heel to babyface. And then they kind of did this sort of scenario where Batista was kind of put in this position, whether to use that number one contendership opportunity to either face then champion Triple H on Raw or JBL, the WWE champion, on SmackDown. And after a little bit of that teasing, so Batista decided that he wanted to go after Triple H. He even power bombs him through the table and signing a contract to challenge then World Heavyweight Champion Triple H for WrestleMania 21. It's just really hard to believe just how much time has passed since Batista was this, this upcoming superstar in the making. And now he's having a reasonable amount of success over in Hollywood with obviously Guardians of the Galaxy and the James Bond movie that just came out in recent years. I can't remember the name of the film. It's still not springing to my mind at the moment. I mean, he's definitely kept a steady career, even if it's, outside of professional wrestling. I mean, he's transitioning more into film and movies, so to speak. So definitely glad for him. Even though Batista and Triple H are kind of like those two wrestlers where it just kind of feels like they're a lot more effective as natural heels. Because, Triple H has been this dominant force that's been going on in WWE, even when he came in the company in the mid-90s, and then having his success in the Attitude Era with DX and being the cerebral assassin, his amazing programs he had with Stone Cold and The Rock. And then you also got a guy like Batista, who, even though there was a period in his career where he was playing the babyface, but, Batista really started coming to his own, especially starting off as a heel, as a member of Evolution. He would eventually become a heel again in 2009 when he turned on Rey Mysterio, making that infamous quote, it's like, "You're supposed to be my friend." And he turned on Mysterio at, I believe it was Bragging Rights or Survivor Series. I think it was Bragging Rights. So it kind of led to some really incredible promos from Batista, really rejuvenated his character since, as effective of a babyface that Batista was from 2005 and even going to maybe 2008. It's once he got to 2009, it's Batista was just kind of getting really stale. And then, at some point he got injured going into 2009, and then he came back, and then he had his thing with Orton for a bit. I believe he would go on SmackDown, and then he would, team up with Rey Mysterio once again, because they had been multiple time tag team champions at that point. So they rekindled their partnership for a little while, and then, going back to what I was saying, Batista turned on Rey Mysterio, just went off the deep end and led to some really incredible promos and eventual matches, especially his match with John Cena at WrestleMania 26, if I'm not mistaken. I definitely really loved some of the stuff that Batista had been doing, especially when he eventually turned heel. And, he would come back in 2014, even though his babyface run was kind of a flop. So they had to kind of have him go back to kind of playing that nasty villain that he was most known for and utilize some of that to his advantage. It's definitely very interesting just to see Batista come back, and I'm sure it's going to be a hell of a match. It's something that Batista had been requesting for a couple years, just to have his potential final match against Triple H. So I think they'll definitely make the most out of this, and I believe it'll definitely be a great match. It might shock a lot of fans. Triple H, even though he's a lot better as a heel, and it's just really hard to believe, that he's a babyface now. I mean, I kind of thought of that like maybe even 10 years ago when the entire McMahon family was feuding with Randy Orton. It kind of reminds me of that kind of thinking, even watching, Triple H as a babyface and even the entire McMahon family as a babyface. It's just really hard to buy into that, especially after all the shit that they've been doing during like the McMahon-Helmsley faction and just raising all sorts of hell and the WWE roster and having things their way. I just have a hard time buying them as like sympathetic baby faces. It just doesn't work after all the stuff that they've been doing over the years. And just have Triple H as, baby face is just really, I don't know, it's just really hard to buy into. And, and even Daniel Bryan's kind of the heel now. I definitely think this will be a potential great match at WrestleMania if it does happen. And I definitely look forward to seeing how this will all play out throughout the next several weeks. Hopefully Batista gets in tip-top shape. I know Triple H kind of came off through an injury, so hopefully he's 100% recovered and able to perform to his full potential. Definitely looking forward to Triple H and Batista. Now, also forgot to mention this. I wanted to mention this like the first couple minutes of this video, but for some reason I just kind of went on to discuss about my thoughts on the Batista Triple H program that may be starting up. As far as Roman Reigns' battle with leukemia is concerned, and it seems like he'll be back 100%. I'm really glad to see Roman Reigns back. I mean, I'm not one of those people that shit on him throughout the years. I mean, I was still, like, there were some things I didn't like about his character, but I never really went as far as, just completely shitting on the person portraying that character. Like I said, I'm very glad to see him back. And I'm not sure if they're going to have him in a WrestleMania match by any chance. Maybe the doctors are insisting that maybe he'll just kind of take it easy for a little bit. Or, I mean, I know he's going to make an appearance. I mean, I'm not saying that he's not going to make an appearance at all because, WrestleMania being the biggest show of the year, being the biggest event for WWE every year. So, I mean, obviously he's going to make an appearance. It's just a matter of whether he's going to be 100% able to, compete in that pay-per-view. And if he does compete, it's like, which wrestler is he going to face? I mean, hopefully, like, as much as I'm glad that Roman's back, hopefully that they don't hotshot him back in the title contention or hotshot him in, like, the top titles of whichever brand that he's in, whether it's the Universal title, whether it's the WWE title on SmackDown. So I really hope that this would be a chance for them to kind of, take it one step at a time with Roman and try and put him in some reasonably effective feuds, some reasonably good feuds with other wrestlers, and really try to kind of regain some of that mojo that he's lost since being out of TV for the past few months. Just have Roman try to take a moment to find his groove again and really start develop some character for Roman. It should be a way for WWE to kind of, figure out, exactly what went wrong the first time and try and make adjustments to the Roman character. So that's basically my thoughts on the Roman Reigns situation, and I'm really glad that he's successfully overcame battle with leukemia. So that's basically what I want to discuss about in this topic for you guys today. Thank you all guys for watching, and till next time, this is the Gold Standard User 924 signing out.